Welcome to episode 27 of your CySA Plus Prepcast. In this episode, we turn our attention to host-based indicators of malicious activity. These are the signals and artifacts that appear directly on endpoint devices, alerting analysts to potential threats or security breaches. Host-based indicators provide detailed insight into system-level events, often revealing malicious behavior before it spreads across the network. Mastering the identification and analysis of these indicators enables you to detect infections early, contain incidents efficiently, and respond with precision. The CySA Plus exam will assess your ability to spot host anomalies, analyze their significance, and recommend appropriate mitigation steps. Today, we'll walk through the most critical host-based signs of compromise and how analysts use them in both exam and real-world environments. Let's start with a foundational definition. Host-based indicators of malicious activity refer to unusual behaviors, changes, or artifacts observed on individual systems such as desktops, laptops, servers, or virtual machines. These can include unexplained resource spikes, unauthorized software changes, altered configurations, and abnormal process activity. Unlike network-based indicators, which focus on traffic patterns, host-based indicators focus on what happens within the endpoint itself. Analysts must monitor logs, system behavior, process activity, and file integrity to detect signs that an endpoint has been compromised or is under active attack. One of the earliest and most common signs of compromise is high processor usage. While spikes in CPU activity can be caused by legitimate tasks, persistent or unexplained CPU consumption is often an indicator of malicious activity. Examples include cryptojacking malware using CPU cycles to mine cryptocurrency, or data-stealing malware running in the background. Analysts must review task manager outputs, monitor process activity, and investigate services that are consuming unexpected amounts of system resources. On the exam, you may be presented with performance graphs or process lists and asked to identify suspicious patterns. Another red flag is abnormal memory usage. Memory-resident malware often attempts to avoid detection by never writing to disk. Instead, it operates entirely in memory. This includes fileless malware, in-memory PowerShell scripts, and injected malicious code within legitimate processes. Sustained or inconsistent memory allocation may point to such threats. Analysts use memory profiling tools to detect hidden or orphaned processes and investigate memory utilization across user and system sessions. CySA Plus questions may include memory usage metrics or performance summaries that you must analyze for possible compromise. Unusual disk consumption is another host-level indicator worth monitoring. Sudden increases in used disk space without corresponding user activity can indicate malware installations, dropped payloads, or unauthorized downloads. Attackers may also store exfiltrated data on disk before transferring it out of the environment. Analysts track disk changes using file auditing tools and watch for directories with unexplained growth or the presence of encrypted archives. Disk usage alerts, particularly in temp folders or hidden directories, often serve as a precursor to ransomware or large-scale data theft operations. Unauthorized software installation is another clear warning sign. Analysts must monitor system logs and configuration files to identify new applications being installed or run. This includes backdoors, password crackers, and remote administration tools deployed without approval. The presence of these tools, especially if unsigned or located in non-standard directories, is almost always suspicious. Endpoint protection tools and EDR platforms help detect such installations and alert analysts for further review. Expect to see scenarios in the exam where unusual software appears on a host, and you must determine the best course of action. Malicious processes running on endpoints often try to disguise themselves. These processes may adopt names similar to legitimate services, hide their execution paths, or inject code into trusted processes. Analysts must investigate process names, command line arguments, parent-child relationships, and execution frequency to uncover such threats. For instance, a command prompt spawned from a web browser may indicate a browser exploit launching a payload. You'll need to assess process behavior for signs of compromise and determine whether escalation or containment is necessary. Unauthorized system changes provide another important clue. These may include altered registry settings, disabled firewalls, modified group policy objects, or unauthorized service configurations. Attackers often make these changes to maintain persistence or weaken system defenses. Analysts must use configuration baselines and change monitoring tools to detect these alterations. Log correlation also helps determine whether changes were user-driven, system-initiated, or attacker-triggered. The CySA Plus exam may test your ability to distinguish between benign and malicious configuration changes in log entries or system snapshots. Privilege escalation is a tactic attackers use to gain administrative control over a system. Analysts must watch for unusual privilege grants, such as a standard user account suddenly acquiring admin rights, or a service account accessing high-privilege resources. Analysts use event log monitoring and access reviews to detect these changes and determine whether they align with business processes. Scheduled tasks, service installations, or credential theft can all play a role in elevation of privilege. Exam scenarios may require you to analyze privilege changes and recommend appropriate containment steps. Data exfiltration often leaves behind host-based clues, large or compressed files placed in temporary directories, encrypted archives appearing on desktops, or batch scripts for transferring files to external servers are all common indicators. Analysts must be alert to changes in file system behavior, unexpected data staging directories, or scripts written to facilitate transfer. File system monitoring and endpoint forensics help locate these files, while reviewing PowerShell histories or browser logs can identify exfiltration mechanisms. The exam may include artifacts suggesting data movement, and you must determine whether it reflects malicious activity. Abnormal operating system process behavior provides some of the most reliable host-based indicators. Analysts look for parent processes launching unexpected children, such as Explorer XQ spawning CMD XQs, or service hosts initiating external connections. Other signs include unusual access to protected files, excessive process duplication, or execution of unsigned code. Analysts correlate this behavior with scheduled tasks, login times, and command line arguments to confirm intent. Expect the exam to include process trees or event log summaries and ask you to identify which processes require investigation. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are more security courses on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Building on the foundation of host-level behavior, system resource anomalies, and unauthorized changes, analysts must also track more advanced endpoint indicators. These clues can reveal deep persistence, lateral movement preparation, or full-scale exploitation efforts underway. As attackers adapt to security controls, analysts must proactively monitor file systems, registry settings, scheduled tasks, and endpoint communications to maintain visibility and detection accuracy. In the second half of the episode, we'll explore how analysts detect hidden threats through behavioral monitoring, endpoint forensics, and security tool integrations, all of which are tested directly on the CySA Plus exam. Analysts must continuously monitor the file system for signs of tampering, obfuscation, or unauthorized activity. Hidden files, especially in user directories, system folders, or temporary storage, are common tactics for malware to evade detection. File permission changes that grant unexpected write access to critical files, or system binaries being modified or replaced, can indicate an attacker has established a foothold and is preparing further actions. Tools like file integrity monitoring systems allow analysts to track changes to critical files and verify whether modifications are legitimate. Expect exam questions that ask you to analyze file attribute changes and determine whether they reflect normal updates or suspicious behavior. Registry anomalies are particularly important in Windows environments. The Windows registry is often targeted by attackers seeking persistence, as it governs startup behavior, security settings, and application configurations. Analysts must identify unauthorized keys under common persistence locations, such as the run and run once keys, and be able to detect unusual registry paths created by malware. Other registry changes may include disabling user account controls, modifying firewall settings, or altering logging configurations to reduce visibility. The exam may provide registry snapshots or log entries, requiring you to interpret changes and recommend appropriate mitigation steps. Scheduled tasks are another common persistence mechanism. Attackers may create or modify tasks to execute scripts, launch payloads, or reestablish backdoors after reboots. These tasks are often disguised using generic names or timed to run during off moments when monitoring is minimal. Analysts must regularly audit scheduled tasks, compare them against known baselines, and flag new entries created without administrative oversight. Windows Task Scheduler logs, PowerShell history, and EDR telemetry are common tools for investigating these indicators. You may be tested on identifying malicious scheduled tasks and understanding how they enable recurring execution. Monitoring user account behavior is also critical. Sudden creation of new user accounts, especially accounts with administrative privileges, often signals a compromised system. Analysts must track user login times, assess password reset attempts, and investigate group membership changes that elevate privileges. Abnormal login locations or attempts to log in from service accounts also raise red flags. The exam might present access logs and ask you to evaluate whether user activity is consistent with business operations or reflects potential credential abuse. Unexpected outbound communication is a host-based indicator that often overlaps with network-based alerts. A workstation initiating encrypted connections to unknown IP addresses or domains, particularly during non-business hours, should prompt immediate investigation. Malware frequently uses outbound HTTPS or DNS tunnels to communicate with command and control servers or to exfiltrate data. Analysts review firewall logs, DNS queries, and endpoint telemetry to validate these sessions. The exam may challenge you with log entries showing destination IPs or domains and ask how to interpret them or which response steps to take. Frequent application crashes or sudden system instability can indicate active exploitation. Exploits may trigger memory corruption, driver failures, or kernel panics during execution. Malware that tampers with system libraries or security tools may cause instability as unintended side effects. Analysts must differentiate between legitimate software issues and security-relevant crashes. Crash dumps, system logs, and monitoring agent data all help correlate symptoms with potential causes. CySA Plus scenarios may present crash events or application logs that you must evaluate to determine whether further investigation is warranted. Ransomware detection often begins with unusual file system behavior. Analysts should monitor for signs like file extensions changing in bulk, appearance of ransom notes in directories, rapid encryption activity, or spikes in file I/O. Ransomware typically modifies thousands of files quickly, renames files with unknown extensions, or leaves text files with instructions for payment. Analysts use EDR tools and behavioral analytics to identify these patterns, isolate affected endpoints, and initiate containment. You may be asked to recognize early ransomware indicators and describe the appropriate response steps on the exam. Endpoint detection and response platforms significantly enhance analysts' ability to detect and respond to host-based threats. EDR solutions provide detailed visibility into process activity, file access, user behavior, and communication attempts. They also enable rapid containment, allowing analysts to isolate machines, kill processes, or remove files remotely. By correlating data across multiple endpoints, EDR platforms help identify widespread attacks or lateral movement. CySA Plus questions may require you to interpret EDR findings or choose which EDR function to use in a given scenario. File integrity monitoring is another powerful technique. FIM tools continuously check critical system files, binaries, and configurations for unauthorized changes. They alert analysts when a file hash no longer matches the baseline, indicating potential tampering. This is especially useful for detecting web shell uploads, replaced binaries, or altered system configuration. Analysts must regularly validate FIM alerts, determine whether changes were legitimate, and correlate with other indicators for investigation. The exam may present FIM alerts and ask whether they represent normal behavior or a security incident. Lastly, analysts perform proactive threat hunting on endpoints. This involves searching for indicators of compromise across hosts. even when no alert has been generated. Threat hunting includes reviewing recent process execution, examining user activity logs, querying endpoint telemetry, and inspecting file systems for known artifacts of malware. It requires deep familiarity with normal host behavior and the creativity to uncover hidden threats. Threat hunting reduces dwell time, enhances detection capabilities, and uncovers stealthy adversaries. Expect the CySA Plus exam to include scenarios that simulate the threat hunting process or ask which techniques should be used in a proactive investigation. To conclude this episode, host-based indicators provide critical insight into the health and security of individual systems. Analysts must know how to interpret process behavior, detect unauthorized changes, investigate abnormal resource usage, and identify persistence techniques. Mastering host-level detection ensures that threats are caught early, mitigated effectively, and documented thoroughly. These skills not only prepare you for the CySA Plus exam, but also elevate your capabilities as a responsive, detail-oriented cybersecurity professional. Continue practicing endpoint analysis, configuring EDR tools, and refining your investigative workflows to excel in both exam performance and operational readiness. Thanks for listening. To learn more about cybersecurity, please visit baremetalcyber.com. There you will find best-selling books, videos, and even more free cybersecurity training courses. Please subscribe to the Prepcast and our various podcasts. And thanks for listening.